looks like there's a skill rebalance coming up. This is my first time looking at it, so let's go through the changes together. Blue Falcon Formation. Normal summon a level 4 or higher normal monster with 1200 or more attack. This is a very minor change. Previously, Blue Falcon Formation worked with 1300 attack, so cards like Harpy Lady would trigger it. When we take into account all of the skill restrictions, it has to be a normal monster, and instead of 1300, it's now just 1200 attack. It has to be exactly Taihone is a new option for the skill. Overall, I don't think this is going to be anything worth noting. It's not really a significant buff. They're just adding one more card as a low level that is able to trigger the skill, which I suppose is fine. This will let you summon out a low level monster, then repeat it off for something like a Yami Ruler, and still be able to get the debuff, which is nice. Unfortunately, the reason this isn't a huge change is because of the skill restriction. You still need these 6 level 5 or higher normal monsters with 1400 or more defense. So you're forced to run all of the cards like the Blue Falcon anyway. If the skill restriction was lightened so that Harpy Lady and Taihone were able to meet the skill requirement, and then you could fill your high level monsters with all of the good warrior bosses, it'd actually be a pretty powerful skill. But as is, the restriction is just a little bit too tight. Moving on to Lightning Shift, it looks like they changed it so that we are able to use it even with Beast Summoner. This is a great change, as Beast Summoner felt really awkward in the deck previously because of that anti-synergy with the skill. It's worth noting, the meta has a ton of light boss monsters, and this is both a blessing and a curse. For one, it makes it a lot easier for Lightning Bolt Condor to debuff multiple monsters. However, in order to actually get your card back with the effect, you need to be able to change a monster to light attribute. So if the opponent's field is entirely light monsters, such as the upcoming Yggdrago, which is light and takes up all 3 monster zones, you're not able to use the skill to get the +1. And with 4000 attack, you do need to discard another copy of Volt Condor to debuff the monster enough to actually run over it. Being able to have an out to Yggdrago does mean that this deck might see some more play, but it is pretty specific since you're going to need to have access to 2 Volt Condors to do it. Overall, this is a very welcome change and should make the deck better. But if it's already not seeing a ton of play in a very light-heavy meta, and it's paywalled, I wouldn't expect to be seeing this taking out all the tournaments anytime soon. Finally, we have Psychic Drive. A face-up level 5 or higher monster gains 600 attack, and then if we choose a Prima Gatarna, we can recycle a monster. So first, we have the extra 200 attack points. This means Prima Gatarna is going from 2600 to 2800. With things like the barrier, it is still failing to clear over opposing 2500s. However, Giftarist does do a lot better here. Going up to 3000 instead of 2800 is a relevant threshold, as 3000 is good enough to clear over opposing 2500s, even if backed by the barrier. Of course, Giftarist does already have its own self-buffing effect, but maybe sometimes you draw some back row, you aren't able to get any other Psychic monsters on the board. And then when we move on to the 1-tribute monsters, it is actually relevant. Size Stage Bouncer goes from 2400 to 2600, which is obviously very relevant for getting over those 2500 monsters when there is no back row. Overall, I think this is already one of the better skills for Psychic decks. It might actually be better than Climax Beat or Amped Up, the skills that we see most people using, because of the lighter restriction. Being able to have those low level monsters be what we want is pretty good. And then of course, coming with a free +1 in recurring those low level monsters when you summon Prima Gatarna can't be undervalued. I do think Psychic Drive might already be the best way to play Psychics, and this should help it even more. Unfortunately, I don't see this competing with something like Resonance or Ultimate Bond. What Psychic really needs are more good cards. Maybe we'll see them in the next box. It looks like that is all of the changes, so it'll be a nice short video. Overall, I like the changes to all these skills, but I don't think it's really going to affect the meta. Kind of like how Explosion Drive and Tempest Drive got minor buffs, but we still don't see them anywhere. Thank you for watching.